crafty friends, this is the Papered Chef here. Well, it's time to shake things up a bit. We're going to make a couple little shaker cards, very simple. And these feature the Snail Mail suite by Stampin' Up. We're going to do some embossing for the back of the shaker cards using the Snailed It stamp set, some white embossing powder, and any dark color of cardstock you have just for contrast. I'm going to show you how to do some stamping around the edges, and we'll do a little bit of layering later. I'll show you how to make this. This is a little bit of layering here. Hi, Caroline. Okay, so we're going to start out with this card. Very simple. We're going to cut the frame. So keep in mind when you use your Scan and Cut, keep in mind that you can use any shape to make a shaker card. So if you don't have the Snailed It suite, you can follow along and make a shaker card with whatever suite you have. That one of these shapes will have to pertain to you. So what I'm going to do is load some cardstock. This is Bermuda Bay. I'm just going to, my mat's already loaded, and I'm just going to put it right there, and I'm going to tape it a little bit because I'm using my CM350 today. But again, it doesn't matter. I did this earlier with my SDX 125, and then what happened is my mat started slipping, and I'm not going to sweat it. I can fix it, fix that issue of my mat slipping. Hello. But I'm not going to sweat it. I just decided my CM350 is reliable. It's not going to give me a hard time, and I'm going to go live with my CM350. Okay, hi, Deborah. Yeah, I didn't know who you were because of your username there. And hi, Linda. So here we are, CM350. But you have this pattern in Shirley, too. Hello. You have this pattern in your SDX machines. You have this pattern in pretty much any of the Scan and Cut. So we're going to use a built-in pattern. So what we're going to do is you turn on your machine and you see pattern and scan. You're going to select pattern. And you could use one of the built-in shapes. What I wanted is I was going for this postage stamp look because the Snail Mail suite has, you know, it has a lot of mail related things. Like there's a little letter. So I'm going for the postage stamp background of this shaker card, right? Oh, Yolandi's coming from South Africa. Very cool. Hello, Yolandi. Hello, Teresa from Las Vegas. So you could use one of these built-in postage stamp shapes if you wanted. But we're not going to use one of those because I found a better one. I've played with these. I just found one that I think, see, this to me looks more like a postage stamp than these shapes here. So I found this one in here. So this is the shapes, and then this is the icons. So these aren't in the Canvas Workspace software. That's why we're just doing this right on the machine. Not that we can't put them into the software. We could upload them, but I just like working off the machine sometimes. So next to this little crown, right down here, it's the second to the last one. They're like little frames. That's where you find this postage stamp looking one that we're going to use for our shaker card. And it is AR-K015. You know it takes me a while. If you've been watching my videos, it takes me a while to write my notes, but I'm going to go ahead and write this down. Because when I do write my descriptions for my videos, I like to give you as much as possible. K015. So we're going to go ahead and select that. So what I want to do is make it 3 inches because that's how big this is. Just 3 inches worked. So I'm going to make it 3 inches wide. That's what I was going for, the width. And I did some experimentation, and that's what I came up with. So 3 inches, and we click OK. And then we click OK. Now, we want to add, we can just go ahead and set that on the mat. We want to add this rectangle. The beauty of the Scan and Cut is you can make, it's like having a die cut, it's like you don't need a metal die because you can make this die any shape you want, any size you want. But what's also beautiful about the Scan and Cut is the real beauty is aligning shapes to each other. So look I can align this postage stamp shaker card to the frame of the shaker card by adding the rectangle. So there's our little shape for the shaker, and we're going to add the rectangle. So you just go into add, and you're going to go to pattern and just pick a rectangle. We can pick a square and turn it into a rectangle. We can pick an actual rectangle. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to go and pick a square and turn it into a rectangle by clicking this box here, this means that I can change the width and the height independently of each other. In the SDX, that box is over here. Doesn't matter. So we're going to make the width of the card 5.25. Okay, so that's a typical card base, and the height is 4 inches. Okay, and that'll be in the description. This is just typical, your typical card base. I want this big border around it because I wanted the black to stick out on this card. And I wanted to make a really simple card before I get into the other card. And this is a graduation card. My friend's graduating from virtual school. She has a cap and gown and everything, is attending a virtual ceremony. And I thought, you snailed it, right? It's fun. I'm going to make an extra you snailed it card because, you know, graduation season's coming up and who knows? I might need another graduation card. All right, so what did I say? One of those. Yeah, one of those. Okay, so 4 by 5.25. So now what we need to do is we need to take these two shapes and align them. And you could eyeball it, right? But that wouldn't be helpful because the Scan and Cut allows us to precisely align things. So let's use the alignment tools. But before we can align these two objects, we need to select the two objects. So this is the editing panel. We're going to go in here to the edit panel, and this is the selection box. So you're going to click on the selection tool. And I like to just use, since I only have two objects on the mat, I like to use the second selection option, which means that I'm going to select everything because there are only two objects there. This first selection is when you select just part of the screen. We want the second one, which is selecting everything, which is these two objects. So we click OK, and now we can align these precisely. We're going to align it both horizontally and vertically, so these are perfectly aligned. This is the alignment feature here. Click on the alignment. And then click on this one here, this shape's here. And it's in both, you know, any of your models with Scan and Cut are going to have this. You're going to align to the center, and you're going to align horizontally. So you're aligning these two things, center and horizontal. So now what you want to do is you want to group these. Because what happens is if I try to cut this, if I want to cut this right now, it's in a really awkward spot. My cardstock's up on the top right. I want to move this up to the top right. If I try to move it, they're not going to move together, although they're perfectly aligned. So let's go ahead and group them. This is the one you want to click on. It's the group one. It's the one that's red right now. Don't collect this one because this is welding them together, and you don't want to do that. You want to group them together. In fact, I think in the last tutorial, we might have talked about welding in my last Scan and Cut tutorial. We're going to put it up here somewhere toward the corner, and we're going to now cut this one out. I don't need it too close to the corner. Okay, right about there. So we're going to cut it out in cardstock. When you're using an SDX machine, you just use auto blade technology. But when you're using a CM model, you need to set the blade depth. To set the blade depth, go up to 12 and move it back down to 5. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cut that out. It should only take a minute. And if you are using really thick cardstock, we're going to click OK, OK, and cut. If you're using really thick cardstock, then you, in your auto blade, might ask you, if you're in an SDX, it might ask you to change your lever. But this one cuts through thick materials pretty easily. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm rubbing my hand. I don't like things to slip. Just don't get your finger cut up under the blade. See, while things are cutting, I like to sort of do that. It just keeps my mat from slipping. My SDX is having a lot of mat slippage issues right now, and I do know how to sort of fix it, and I do have lots of extra mats. But I just wanted to use this CM model because it was very reliable today when making these shaker cards. So we're finished cutting. We click OK. And now we're going to go ahead and take that cardstock off. And we'll go ahead and make the first shaker card. Then I'll come back and make the second one, which will involve a layering. We're going to be doing layering. And not the same kind of layering with the offsets we do with the Scan and Cut, but layering in that we're going to make a little extra frame for them. So anyway, to get that off, I like to save these as well. These make cute little embellishments as well. But I'm just going to use this one right now. So we'll do a little bit of stamping on it. We'll make this first shaker card, and we'll come back to the Scan and Cut. So let me go ahead and tilt down a little bit. Hi, Marie. And let me grab my little work surface. I turned it onto the metric side because this side was so dirty. But it doesn't matter because we're not actually using the measurements. So what we need now is to just do some stamping while it's flat. And when I stamp, I like to put, hi Diana, I like to put my little silicone mat down there. Okay, and I'm going to use Memento Black for You Snailed It and make some little snails come out the sides. Now I didn't use, okay, so just full disclosure, I could have used these little snail eyes, but if you have a paper pumpkin, so this kind of stamp set is a cling stamp set. And it's rubber. So you could have tried to use these little snail eyes, but then you have to tape this off. And you could have used these little snail eyes, but I'm using this one with Versamark. I'm using Versamark on this one, so I didn't want to change between Versamark and ink. So instead, I remember that I had this other little cute snail from the paper pumpkin kit. So that's what I'm using for the little eyes to peek out. I'm using this little snail. Let me just stamp over there. And he's going to peek out with his little eyes. Okay, peek him out over there. And he's going to peek in over here. Okay, and then I just put him up there too. I mean, it's just up to you where you want to put him. I just thought it'd be cute to stamp one up there. And that one got a little messed up, so that one I will cover up. We will use one of my little embellishments from my bucket of crafty goodness, and we'll just stamp another one right next to it. Which is kind of why I put that one there, because I messed up the last one, right? Get it? So you mess up something, you cover it up. So that's why you do your stamping first. Okay, perfect. So we'll put that little guy there. And then we need to use Snailed It. So again, Memento Black ink from the Snailed It stamp set, which is totally awesome. We'll lay that up there so you can see it. You Snailed It. Put that right there. Hold it for 3 seconds. When you have the rubber, hold it there, because the rubber has to kind of, you know, see how it has a little sponge there? I kind of have to settle it. Make sure the whole image is good. And then I can add my extra little embellishments from my bucket of crafty goodness. So now we're going to take our window sheet. So we sell these window sheets here at Stampin' Up, and they come in this, you know, you get 2 12 by 12 window sheets in this giant container with a piece of cardboard behind it. But I've already cut those ahead of time, just to save us time. So we'll put the window sheet on it with some seal plus adhesive. And we're going to look at the other card too, just to give you something to look at while I'm doing this. Okay, so we're going to take the window sheet, right? I just cut these 1/4 inch smaller than the card matting. So you see that? So that the snail, the seal plus, not the snail. I don't mean this kind of snail. I'm talking about, we used to have adhesive called snail, right? This seal, it's now called seal, so I keep mixing it up. So anyway, I put that around it, and you just need a little border, right, too. I'm not putting this isn't touching the shaky part. This is just getting this part to stick onto there. Okay, now I'm going to put now I'm going to make a little thing for the shaky part. So this is just flat. So I put the window, right? Good morning, Joanne. I put the window. And Kathy and Tina. Wow, lots of you guys joining me. This is awesome. Awesome, awesome. Oops, I already had stuff on my mat. So my my card's getting already smudged all over because my little mat's dirty. But you know what? It's okay, because we're going to cover that up. So now what we want to do is take these are called, I don't know, foam adhesive strips, I think they're called. So to make your shaker cards, I used to just use all my little scraps of foam from the edges of my, what are these things? The dimensionals. So I used to have to try to piece the edges together and make my own little strips by taking the edges like this. And you could do all that work. But then they came up with these foam adhesive strips last year, and I was like, oh, this is going to save me so much time. So I stock up on these now for all my shaker cards, which I make a lot of shaker cards. I also make a lot of shaker boxes. I think I did a recent tutorial on making shaker boxes. I know it's in my course, shaker boxes, my boxes and envelopes course. So what you want to do is get in there, so you don't want to leave any gaps, because the confetti, the little sequins will fall out. So you don't want to leave any gaps. Even that part could be a little gap. You just want to make sure it's pushed down in there. Okay, but you also want to get close to you want to get close to the edges, because you're going to put your shakers in there, but you don't want to leave any gaps. Save these little pieces, because they're going to help stand up your card. I usually put a couple on the edges so they're no droopy cards, right? So save all those little pieces for the edges so your card doesn't droop. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they carried over. Maybe one of the demonstrators on here can tell us if they are going to be in next year's catalog. I don't know. I can't remember, but if they aren't, Boyd, let me know here. I'll be stocking up on them. I'm pretty sure they carry over, because they're like a staple. But then again, I thought that about mini pizza boxes. I thought that about the 2-inch bags a couple years ago. I thought those were shirty staple items, and they didn't carry over. So that's kind of what you're doing. Just make it so that it doesn't droop. You go close around the edges, and so it doesn't droop. So now you're going to peel this out. Oops, yeah. As you can see, my card is running, my ink got running all over the place, but it's okay, because we're going to cover it up with embellishments anyway. So now you're taking off all the adhesive, and I'm using just I found these really cute little sequins. I have a lot of sequins, right? And a lot of things. But this one, I thought it had little shells. And although these, these kind of snails here, these Snailed It snails aren't really like the sea snails. Like, they're not really like the ocean snails. They're kind of more like land snails. But you know what? The ocean little sequins I have from Whale of a Time, they seem to work really nice. The colors sort of went well with this. Okay, so make sure all the little stickers are off and have that ready. Put that off to the side. And then get your, now we're just going to put that off to the side. We're going to emboss our card and we're going to come back to that. We'll stick that on in a minute. So now I'm going to emboss the card, and if I mess it up, I'll just do another one. So what I want to do is I want to use Versamark. So what I'm doing now, just so you know, we're making a snail with white embossing powder. And by the way, the embossing powders, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to say about next year's catalog. We do have the same embossing powder, but it's going to be coming in a different kind of package configuration. Let's put it that way. So we are going to have white embossing powder next year, but it might not be sold individually. Hint, hint. So what I'm using is the Embossing Buddy. The Embossing Buddy keeps embossing powder from sticking to places you don't want it to stick. And that's little powdery substance. And these are my little sequins I was telling you about. These are from Whale of a Time. I'm going to be using them inside my shaker card because I think they just went well. All right, so we need the white embossing powder. We're going to use Versamark. It's like invisible ink. Okay, the way I like to look at embossing is like invisible ink. You're adding this stuff, you're sticking this to your stamp, right? And you're putting it on the surface, but you don't see it until you put powder on it and then you heat set it. See? So there's actually an image of a snail right now on there. And you can also put an image of the heart on there, like I did earlier. Good morning, Melody. I put the image of the heart, but now it has black ink on it, so I'm not doing the heart this time. I'm just doing the snail this time, not the heart. So now we need the white embossing powder. So you just get this little tray. I'm just using a little tray from just a little food tray I had, just to catch the embossing powder. So you're going to pour your embossing powder on there, and voila. See? Isn't that cool? It sticks on there. I'm going to put the lid on before I do some flicking. It's called flicking. Thank you. Good. Okay. See how I flicked it off? I flicked off the excess powder. And the Embossing Buddy, what that did is it kept all this extra embossing powder from sitting off to the side. Now, I could actually do a few of these at once, which I have done, and just heat them up later. Because once the embossing powder's on there, you don't have to worry. What you don't want to do is put the Versamark on there and leave that dry. You need to put the embossing powder on while the Versamark's wet. But now let's go ahead and heat set it anyway. I'm going to use the heat tool, and I'm going to use the number 2 setting. Watch the magic of this happen. I'll put it close up there so you can watch it happen. And I'll make sure if I have to focus the camera again. Well, I can't focus because I need both hands, but I hope it's in focus. And I hope you can see the magic happen. So I moved the heat tool around, and you can just actually watch it transform as it melts. See that? It's getting white. It's getting really bright white. Pretty cool. So that side, the right side is done. It's embossed. This side is not done. So that's kind of, I just let it move about evenly. I always end up going too long because I can't see anything unless I get really close in there. So I've definitely, I think I've overdone it. But I mean, it's black, so you can't really overdo it, right? If you could overdo it on a light colored paper, because you end up pretty cool, right? You can end up overdoing it on a light colored paper because you could burn the paper. I've burnt the paper before. I'm going to get that little piece extra. So I've heat set it, so now the shakers won't mess this up. It doesn't matter. Just going to get a black marker. There's a little white in there, but it doesn't really matter. That's what Sharpies are for. Actually, I could have used my black Stampin' Right marker. Ah, good. Fixed it. Any other little white spots, just fix them. Stray white spots. All right, I'm happy with this. So now what I want to do is I'm just letting it dry. I already took this off, and now I'm going to add the sequins to this. It's dry. I mean, it doesn't really take long to dry. Okay, I'm just adding a little pile of sequins in there. The Whale of a Time sequins. Use any sequins you have. Make your own confetti if you have to. The Scan and Cut can help you make confetti. I've already made 2, and I've already used this for one other. I used it for a couple shaker boxes, so I can. Usually I use about a 1/5 on there, but I've been using more of like a 1/10 on shaker cards for that one. I'm going to turn this over. Turn it over and just stick it onto my card. And that is how easy it is to make a shaker card. Now we're going to decorate it a little bit using Scan and Cut elements. Voila! Easy, easy, peasy. And if there's any confetti stuck in there, you just shake it out so it doesn't get stuck in the middle. See, I think I put too big of a pile. There you go. Is that fun? When you give it to someone, they're just going to keep on shaking it. They're not going to be able to stop shaking it. So now let's take the bucket of crafty goodness and just add a couple of little things to hide all those mistakes. So I have all these things I cut out from the Scan and Cut. And you learned about how to do that in a previous video. I'm pretty sure I did it on YouTube when this catalog first came out. So we're going to put that one right there because you see that mistake? I'm covering up that mistake right there. Right? That black smudge, because when I turned it over onto my silicone mat, there went my... I got ink on the other side. I didn't know how dirty my mat was. There you go. So that covered up. We'll cover one up there. The nice thing about using the Designer Series paper is the snails can face each other. See? They can face each other because some of the snails are facing the different ways, whereas the stamps, you don't have as many options on the stamps. I'm just using mini dimensionals. Like that's what I'm using to stick these on with. And it looks like I'm running low on mini dimensionals, but Donna likes the snails. Hi, Donna. I like your little snail emoji. I mean, they're so happy. They're such happy snails. And you can put little presents there. And I'm going to put this other one up there. This one's from the Paper Pumpkin kit. There was this really cute Paper Pumpkin add-on. I mean, you can use glue too. You don't need dimensionals. Anyway, these little add-on treat boxes. I don't know if they're still available, but if you're a Paper Pumpkin subscriber during, you know, these you can use all the time. There was this little add-on during Valentine's Day Paper Pumpkin kit, and you had these little add-ons, and they had these little snails in them. And there's some that are right like that, and some that are like the real red. I'm just covering up any smudges with the little, and I'll just add a heart. So there's a heart. Put the heart over there. And then you can also add, if you still have more smudges, you can take some pearls and add them. So there you go. So now you've decorated the card. So now we'll do one with the layering. And I know a lot of you came on later, so you didn't get to see how I did this in the Scan and Cut. So now you're going to get to see it again. But this time we'll make one with a layer. But that's how to make that card. Now we're going to make one horizontal. Okay, so let's do it. Let's do it again. And like I said, these are all cut out with the Scan and Cut. This little stamp came from here, cut out with the Scan and Cut. That was the Paper Pumpkin. But all the other stamps I'm using came from Snailed It, from this Snailed It suite. Okay, so we have these cute cards. Now we're going to make one with the real red. Because I tried it with the black and I thought, oh, the real red looks really good. Hi, Rosemary. Well, thank you for your wonderful comment. All right, so what I need, I'm just making sure I have enough room here to cut the next piece up there. Yes, I do. See how I'm turning my cardstock so that I can get another rectangle involved up there. So, because what I need is a Bermuda Bay rectangle for the top in cardstock. And that's going to have to be a little bigger. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and cut I'm going to cut another one of the one we just did. Just so you know what we're doing right now is I'm cutting another one just like this with this paper. Right? Just so you know what I'm doing. I don't need to change my settings yet before I make the one in cardstock. Because what we're doing now is we're going to go ahead and make one with the cardstock layer behind it. Right? But before I do that, I need to cut one out in Designer Series paper. So the only thing to keep in mind when using Designer Series paper and making your shaker cards is the direction you're going to turn this. So remember the way that the shape was facing. I'm going to put the, wait a minute, let me see. Oh no, that's okay. It's okay. I am going to put it this way You got to make sure you put it the way that you want your orientation of your card to go. And mine is already set like that, so that's okay. So what I'm going to do is just turn the camera up a little so you can see what I'm talking about. See, the pattern of the paper matters how you put it on your mat. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this one the same size as before. Go ahead and cut, but you do have to change your blade depth when cutting designer series paper. Change it to a blade depth of 3 for designer series paper, where it was 5 for cardstock. But of course you don't have to worry about blade depth if you're using an SDX, because you're using auto blade. You only worry about blade depth because of the CM model. Save all those extra little pieces. These are great card elements because again they look like a postage stamp. All right, so that's done. So we can go ahead and get that off, right? Now we're going to do the cardstock layer. So what we need now is a cardstock layer to go behind, because this, you can't make a shaker card when you just have, not that you can't, but don't ever try to make a shaker card with designer series paper trying to hold up. It won't hold up. So now what we're doing is I'm just showing you how to make the layer of cardstock behind it. This is too flimsy to make a shaker card with. It's designer series paper. We need a piece of cardstock behind it. So that's what we're going to do now, is a piece of cardstock behind it. I'm going to use Bermuda Bay because it's one of the coordinating colors. Right there, we're just doing a little tiny bit of Bermuda Bay. Not even 1/4 of an inch, just 1/8 of an inch. And save these little pieces, like I said. Hi, bird's nest. All right, so what we're doing now is go ahead and we're not gonna save that. Well, we can save it. I'll go ahead and show you how to save it. We'll go ahead and save it. And then, but we don't need that one anymore. So you just go back here and you click save. Anywhere you want to save it, to your machine, to Scan and Cut Canvas, to your USB, to your computer, or to the USB, this is the USB thumb drive, or to the USB, but we're not going to use the USB cable. It says it has a group object and it says, do you want to save it? And I said yes. So I'm saving it to my machine, okay? So later on, if you want to retrieve that file, go to Pattern, Save Data, Your Machine, go to the last page. I'm going up to go to the last page, and there is the frame. Okay, so you can cut that again. But we don't want that one anymore. We want one for the outer layer. I put both of mine on the same place. We're going to go to Pattern again. Let's just start back at the beginning in case you came late. So we're going to go to this one. We're using this second one, the icons. We're going to the one that looks like the frames, and we're going to select the postage stamp. Okay, we still want that to be 3 inches. We're selecting the postage stamp, and we're going to go down to 3 inches wide, because we just want the inner layer is still going to be the same, but it's the outer layer is a little wider. Okay, 3 inches wide, so that's the same. Okay, we're going to click OK. Now we're going to click OK and set that on the mat. There it is, same as before. That's a review. We just did that earlier. Now we're going to add that rectangle shape. We're going to go to Pattern. We're going to go to the shapes. We're going to get a square. We're going to change it to a rectangle by clicking on this button to keep the width and height so that they're not in proportion. Remember before that a regular card base is 5.25, okay? So 1/8 of an inch is 1.25, half of that, 1.25 inches higher than that. But you can't go 3 decimal points. So it's we're going to go to 3.38. Wait, 3.7? Yeah, 5.35 is 1/10 of an inch, right? That'd be 1/10 of an inch. But we need 1/8 of an inch, so about 5.38. Okay, now for the width of the card, it's normally 4 inches, right? That's what it was with this. It's 4 inches, but we need another 1/8 of an inch. So that's that. You would go 0.125, but you can't do 0.125, so you're going to do 0.123. So you're rounding up. So always round up. You can only go 2 decimal spots. So 4.13 by 5.38. Let's make sure I wrote that down. I did write it down, so we'll put that in the notes later. Okay, we're going to set that on the mat. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to line these together, right? We're going to align this rectangle to that scalloped postage stamp for our shaker card. We're going to go over to the edit again, and we're going to select them both. The last time I taught you about that selection tool, which selects everything on the mat. This time I want to show you another way to select, which is just making a selection around objects. That's another way to select what's on the mat. Either way, you're accomplishing the goal of making both of these red and selecting both of those at once. Click OK. Hi, Lorna. Thank you for your comment about my courses. Okay, so we are selected both, so they're both red, and we're going to click on this button here, which is the 4 arrows in different directions. And we're going to then click on the alignment tools. And if this is going too fast, go back to the beginning where I did the same thing very slow. In the alignment tools, you can align both vertically and horizontally so that these two objects are perfect for your shaker card. Okay, we're going to then say, okay, now that they're both aligned, you need to group them, because if I don't group them and move them around, they're going to move independently of each other. Don't accidentally weld. We want the second button, which is group. When you hit the second button that's grouped, they stay grouped even if you save your file, but we want them to be grouped, so it's okay. Click group, and now they're one group. So now we can go ahead and cut this out in cardstock. I'm going to use Bermuda Bay, and because I cut this part before, I just turn the paper this way, and I'm going to put the paper right there. Okay, and we're going to click cut. But this time we have to go back to doing cardstock, and we're going to go up to 12, move it back to 5. Okay. So blade depth of 5 for cardstock. I like to give it a rub while it's cutting. I'm going to get out that piece we're going to emboss on. I'm just seeing if all my cards were folded the same way, which they are. Okay, I like the way that this is folded. Well, they're all folded the same way. Nope. Yeah, these are vertical. So I don't want the card to open this way. I want the card to open from the top. So I'm going to use this card the way that this is. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? But that's just my preference for this kind of card. So what we're going to do is put that layer there, right? And then we have our, save these little cuties, right? Save these cuties. We're done with the scan and cut for now. We're just, I think, oh no, we're done with the scan and cut. We're going to put that layer, and we also have the layer of designer series paper. So that's what we're going for, just like that. Okay? And if my battery on my camera does go down, we maybe don't get the whole card finished, but just to show you what's going on, and just to show you, I'll try to finish this card right now. That's what we're going for. We're going to emboss on the red. I'm glad that you like this. I'm glad you're excited. Okay, so we are getting the embossing buddy, right? And we're going to emboss the buddy, emboss the buddy. Use the embossing buddy on there, and we're going to click on that. We're going to use the Versamark. We're going to stick a snail there. Where do you stick the snail in this case? If you want to make sure you're sticking the snail in the right spot, go ahead and put this down as a guide. I always teach you extra little tips and tricks. How do I know this? I've stamped in the wrong spot before. That's how I know this. In fact, I forgot to tilt my camera so you can see better. There you go. I've stamped in the wrong spot before. That's how I know this. Here, I got to put something over there so you don't get the glare on. There. Maybe I don't want you to have a glare. There's little places in my camera where you get a glare. Anyway, so we're putting, did I already ink this up? So we're putting this right there in the opening. Using that as a guide. Right? See that? Using that as a guide. So that's how you know where to put the edge. Now let's get our little tray of white embossing powder. Pour it over the top. I'm very generous with my embossing powder. If you want to try to catch some on the way back, you can try to catch some, but it doesn't really ever help. It's just, I end up catching it all later. In fact, I end up leaving it in my trays, stepping on it, spilling it, and having to buy lots of embossing powder. But it's fun to use embossing powder, especially at Christmas time with the snowflakes and the trees. What I'm doing is flicking off the extra embossing powder. I usually use little extra makeup brushes I get at Crystal from, you know, from like the Dollar Tree. Get those extra little makeup brushes and use them to get any powder off. You're going to heat set it. You watch it transform. It's really easy to transform this. And this is the card we're going for right here. And you know you've got too hot when the paper starts to warp. So that's why you got to go in circular motions. Because otherwise, if your cardstock starts to warp, then you've gone too far. Oh, I love it. I'm so happy with Mr. Snail. Carrying the little presents. Ah, I love it. Okay, so that's what we're doing. So we got the little snail, and now I just like to shake it every single time I pick it up. So you're going to put your acetate between the layers. Now that you have 2 layers, you can put the acetate between the 2 layers. Then you don't have to fiddle fart with it. Because you know what? It's easier to stick those adhesive sheets, in my opinion now, right? It's easier to stick the adhesive sheets to the cardstock. So whenever I have 2 layers, I try to put the acetate between those 2 layers. Yes, it does have a little, tendency to sequins can get stuck between the 2 layers. However, it's just sealed in there. That I can easily get the foam adhesive sheets to stay on the cardstock. So there's the window sheet. And now I'm going to put that layer, that beautifully aligned layer, because we use the alignment tools in the Scan and Cut. Again, I'm generous with my Seal Plus. Seal Plus is a very good, strong adhesive. So you want that little border to show up. But you also want this, I want this to be perfectly aligned in the middle. So here, this is what I need. I shouldn't go over that color, see? That was a bad color to use because it was too close to the color that I'm working with. I need to put it over the top of the Misty Moonlight for some contrast there. I hope I align this right. I mean, pretty good, pretty good. All right, I mean, good enough, good enough. Okay, so I'm happy. Got that aligned. Now I'm going to stick that. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, some window sheets. So again, these have to be close, because if you don't make them close, you end up using all these extra sequins, right? The foam needs to be close. And you stick it on in there like a little puzzle, because you don't want the little sequins slipping out the sides. And then you're saving all these extra pieces, right? So that your card doesn't droop down the side. These are called adhesive foam sheets or something like that. So someone was going to look those up amongst yourselves and figure out if this is a carryover product. Somebody was going to look that up and say, I think they should be in next year's catalog. I don't see why not. It's a staple item. And I put a couple little extra there for good measure for not drooping. And then I just peel them off and stick a little bit of the sequins on there from the Whale of a Time. Sweet, that's where I got my sequins, but although they're not all the same coordinating colors. The little seashells I thought looked cute with this little snail, even though I said he's a land snail as opposed to an ocean snail. That uses Flirty Flamingo, Pacific Point, and I think Balmy Blue or something. Anyway, but the colors still are matched. And, you got to use whatever you have, because the ones from the Forever Greenery or the Flowers for Every Season, those totally didn't work. They were just jade. I had those little pearls that go inside the jars of flowers. That totally didn't work. So these worked better. See, there's little seashell sequins. They just worked a lot better. And my sequins. Here they are. And you put a little pile in the middle. Get them all in there. And then lower, make sure that's the top of it. Let's make sure the card opens on the bottom, right? Making sure the card's opening the right way. And you're going to get some static. Whenever you make shaker cards, there's a little bit of static at first where these start trying to push up and stick against the plastic. But oh, how fun. See? And then you got to shake them up to get them sort of out of the way, because there's always there's a little pile up at the beginning, in the middle. I can't stop shaking it, and either will your friends you give it to. And there you go. And then I put get my bucket of crafty goodness. And I have the Happy Mail enclosed. Put that there. That's from here. Punched out with the rectangular postage stamp punch. This is punched out. You can either do it in real red. I think real red looked better than that one, right? Than the Bermuda Bay. Because there's already too much Bermuda Bay going on. So we'll put a real red. And you don't have to put it there. You could put it on the other side, but I think that looks cute. And then you just get other things out from your bucket of crafty goodness like that you got from the Designer Series paper. Oh, good. I'm glad that Carolyn, thanks for clarifying that those adhesive strips are in the new catalog. So no rush to get them. They'll be around forever. Well, not forever, but another year. These snails go in different directions. What I like about the snails from the Designer Series paper is you can make happy little snails go in different directions. And you can put the little present somewhere. And that's how you decorate your shaker card. And then on the inside, I just did a plain whisper white or basic white. It could have been whisper white. It depends on how long ago I cut it, but it's all just white in the inside. See what I did on the inside of these. Nothing on the inside, just white. Even though, I'm going to say happy graduation. This is going to be a graduation card, so it'll be white inside. And so you could just add little hearts and extra little things, and hope you give this a try with whatever shapes you find that might be useful for you inside your Scan and Cut. You can then save all your extra pieces and do other fun things with those. Okay, and basically there's no limit to this. You can make little boxes and things like that. So I just want to show you last. I always like to show you something at the end of my videos. Let me reach over and grab it. I was playing around with the embossed snail. And I was playing around with the patterns in the machine, and I made this little box. Let me put back on my microphone. It was on the other side. And I embossed a snail on the Magenta Madness box. So if you recall, if you got your Scan and Cut, and you turned on your Scan and Cut, and it says Create a Welcome Project, and you created a little box with a crown, I turned this crown into a box with a heart. Okay, so I used the box from the Scan and Cut that they gave us. It's called the Welcome Project. In the SDX. I'm pretty sure it's in the SDX. I don't know I don't think there's a welcome project in the CM350 that's quite like that, but I made a little magenta. I used Magenta Madness and some Flirty Flamingo to color in him to fit. And I was gonna glue him there, but I'm having trouble. I'm still experimenting with the size of the opening, and so I didn't want to glue him yet because I was already having enough trouble getting that heart through there. But this is a super strong box made of Magenta Madness. But that's just something else you can do with the embossed snail. You can even use the crown, the one with the crown on it. Or, like I said, I have a different topper. We also have what's called a curvy keepsake, a mini curvy keepsake retiring, but you would have to use a smaller snail in that box. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Hope you'll give these techniques a try. And that's all for now. This is the Paper Chef, and thank you for joining me today. And I will get to go read all the rest of your comments as soon as this is over. And I charge my camera. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.